I see Holly Ewald there. Can you give me a thumbs up? You can hear me fine? Perfect. COVID-19 has changed a lot for all of us, but despite these new challenges, we're all moving forward in new ways. Tamaqua Museum's Indigenous Empowerment Network is committed to uplifting Native people, and that includes supporting the artists we collaborate with, respect, love, and admire. Through this series, we're checking in with Native artists to celebrate the diversity, creativity, and ingenuity of Indigenous art. Thank you for joining us today for our virtual discussion, made possible thanks to funding from the United Way, the Rhode Island State Council on the Arts, and the Rhode Island Council for the Humanities, and people like you. You too can support programs like this by making a tax-deductible donation to the Tamaqua Museum. The link is in the chat box. Just a quick reminder before we get started, please make sure you're all on mute. We will have time to take your questions at the end of the interview, so please use the chat box to type in your questions and we'll go through them in the order they are received. Use your reaction buttons to let us see your enthusiasm. And if you have any technical trouble, use the chat box to private message Tamaqua Tech for assistance. Before we begin, I just want to take a minute to introduce myself and do a land acknowledgement in my language. You can acknowledge the land you are on. If you know the nation, put it in the chat. If not, use the tool called native-land.ca, which is also in the chat. Askawee Kwasin, Natasawis Makasini Pashao at Nahai Gansek, Natasawis Loren Spears at Englishat, Ni Nahai Gansek Nahantek, Kanupiam at Aki at Nahai Gansek. Hello everyone, I am known as Loren Spears and I'm the Executive Director of Tamaqua Museum. My traditional name is Makasini Pashao, which is the moccasin flower of the lady slipper, and I am the Executive Director of Tamaqua Museum and I am Narragansett Niantic. Welcome to the homelands of the Narragansett people as the only Indigenous nation in the state of Rhode Island that is federally recognized. I am going to introduce to you today Dawn Spears. Dawn is Narragansett Choctaw, and she is the Executive Director of the Northeast Indigenous Arts Alliance. Developed from her prior role as the Native Arts Program Manager for the New England Foundation for the Arts, also known as NEFA in Boston. Prior to joining NEFA, she devoted a decade to the Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Nation, where she was involved in a variety of cultural initiatives, which included cultural education, powwow and dance troupe coordination, and language revitalization work. Dawn served as the Narragansett Tribe's Tribal Council Secretary for 2 terms, and has also served on the board of Tamaqua Museum and continues to volunteer here even today. She was a member of the Native Americans in Philanthropy, serving 2 terms on the executive board as secretary and vice chair. She is a 2015 Rhode Island State Council for the Arts Master Apprenticeship grantee and a 2015 UPP Arts teaching artist, and also served on the Hop Arts Artist Studio Trail Planning Committee and is now a member of the Community Advisory Board for the Institute for New England Native American Studies. In 2014, along with her husband, they formed the Narragansett Food Sovereignty Initiative to bring a concept of healthy living by providing the Narragansett people access to food, health, and well-being, now and into the future, through sustainable agriculture, economic development, community involvement, and educational programs. Dawn and Cassius have been married for 35 years with 3 children, Cassius Jr., Kiowa, and Cody, and 6 grandchildren, and 1 on the way as we speak, will be happening sometime this week. And their work truly supports the belief in the preservation and education of our cultures and traditions, passing it down through their children and grandchildren as well as the community at large. Dawn has been teaching, demonstrating, and exhibiting for over 25 years in many forms of art that we will be here to learn more about today, Please join me in welcoming today's featured artist, Dawn Spears. You can use your clap reaction or clap in the screen. So welcome, Dawn Kanupiam.
Hello. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, thank you.
So
we're so excited to have Askwekwasin. So excited to have you here for the first quarantine creatives. So we are starting off with a bang. And I thought we would start with a question where you could share your background with the audience and tell them how you became an artist.
Well, that I think was really from my upbringing. I'm a daughter of an artist. I'm a niece of an artist. I think I've just always been exposed. Even my stepfather was an artist, so it's just been part of my life since birth. I think a few of you who are sitting here watching will agree with that. So I can remember, I think weaving was like the first thing that I picked up and I started doing, ironically.
And I'm wondering if you can build on that and tell us how your culture influences your art.
Well, my culture absolutely influences my art. I mean, I think just as an Indigenous people, we are connected to our land, so it's just automatic. So I'm going to look around me, look at my landscape, look at my surroundings, and I'm going to draw from that for inspiration. But additionally, I also look at things that those who came before me have created. So in the way that they use the natural world to represent us, artistically. I think everything that we've done or that we create to sustain ourselves, from the baskets that we weave, the clothing that we make out of, leather, and then how we enhance it, all speaks to, who we are. You know what I mean? When you're looking for inspiration on how to decorate those items, you always look around you. So you look at your surroundings, and then you, so the flowers, so the flora, the fauna, right? The birds, the trees, everything. So, and then I also have found over the years that I use photography. So I'm drawn to those sunrises and those sunsets and those natural colors that are, there. And I like to find a way to hold those moments. So photography is good for that. But then I also take and I like to mimic those. So you'll see a lot of the colors from those early sunrises or those sunsets, in my paintings or in my work.
Whenever you want to show something, let me know, because you certainly could show them something that shows that layering.
So do you think I should just put that up, Ren? Will that be helpful?
Sure, you're welcome to.
Okay, because maybe that would even be helpful to move through the slides.
Yes, I would love for you to describe your inspiration for each image that you show us today and how it tied into, your own family and your connection to the land and your culture and community.
So let me see if I can, bear with me with my tech skills here. So, so this is a perfect example. This is my mother's work. Perfect example in the fact that I, watched what the work she did, from beadwork to, pottery, and the designs she used. And I tried not to mimic anything that she did, but I did try to draw. I don't know. I think my inspiration will always come from what I was exposed to as a young artist. And she always encouraged my work. So I was going through creating these slides, and it was very heartwarming for me. I'm going through a move of late, and I've come across some pieces that I forgot I had even done, and pieces of her work that I had even put in the back of my mind. So to see the similarities even in our work is really interesting.
I'd like to say, if people don't know this, that Dawn's mother, Diosa, is featured in the pottery exhibit with Dawn's sister, Brenda Hill, who's a potter today. Dawn, in my opinion, very much is reflective of her mom's work in the fact that she does a multitude of different types of artwork, including painting, photography, beadwork, weaving, basketry, and pottery. And so you can see that in the museum, and above that exhibit is actually one of her paintings. It's from the Horses series.
So I'm not sure, Ren, how your next question.
Sure. Well, you can go, why don't you go ahead and flip one of your things and show one of your pieces of art and describe it for us, and then we'll ask another question.
Okay, so what I have on the screen right now is these girls, these women that, you know, I find that a lot of my work centers around women, you know, are, I don't know, maintaining the strength in women. Yeah, the matriarchs from, I don't know, it's just really deep in me that I want to be supportive of women, and I want to help nurture strong women, you know. So as a mother, I encourage my daughter, and as a grandmother, I encourage my granddaughter, you know, to be strong women. And so I'm just, again, through this moving process, I came across these two old paintings, and when I'll say, what was this, almost 20 years ago now? It is 20 years ago. These girls, I used to paint these girls a lot, and there were always 3 of them. And I could never really figure out why I was doing 3 of them. Sometimes I would say it was my mother and my sister and I. And then as time progressed, I would say, well, it's past, present, future, you know, but then I just think it's just women supporting women too. So it can really be all of the above, you know. And then this other one I found to my left, to your whatever, the 2008 painting, I just thought was kind of cool, because I'm sure I've never even shown anyone that painting, but so it's like another side of me, this girl just sitting on the rocks and looking out to the water, you know. And so that, again, was heartwarming, and I guess I should finish it.
It makes me think of you. It's almost like a self-portrait. But I think it's really powerful when we think about that 2020 is the year of women, and thinking about the 19th Amendment and the power of women, and that movement was actually established by American women looking at the matriarchal communities here in the Northeast, particularly the Iroquois Confederacy, the Haudenosaunee. So that is really powerful. I'm wondering if you could share sort of how in particular, I guess, your painting style, but like how your style of art has evolved over time.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's funny because these 3 ladies are that's watercolor. And I mean, that's not a typical watercolor, because, you know, again, the vibrancy of the painting, you can see that even back then I was looking to pull out those bold colors. And then the 2008 one is acrylic. So when I first was painting, I was doing these girls, I was doing feathers, I was doing flowers, I was doing all of these things. And the funny thing with the girls is I was always doing their backs. I wasn't ever showing their faces. So I took me a while to get to where I felt strong enough to do that. And I'll talk about that as we continue today. But so I went from doing that to doodling. And I saw Laura in this audience today, but Laura will remember back in our meetings at NEFA, you know, some of them could be long. And so I would sit there and I would draw, and I just would draw and draw and draw. And so I had to come to a point, because then I ended up having all of these sketchbooks filled with drawings, and I call them doodles, which people keep telling me to stop calling them doodles. But I started realizing that I needed a way to actually be able to share these doodles of sorts, you know, these drawings. And so I was trying to figure out how to do that. And so I started incorporating that into my paintings. And so like this one right here is probably like the first step into doing that. And I added to the acrylics, I added again floral designs and particular paintings done there, and you know, is that we, you know, and whatever you want on this one, I'm supposed to be doing it based on his idea. If I'm going to do native art, I need to do it in pieces. So I held to my, so this work that you see here is me dissecting those doodles, as you say, or I call them, these design symbols into my paintings. Perfect example of the sunrise and me just doing what I do. And like, this was the first time I let it go, and I really, which I probably should show the whole painting instead of just this little clip of it. But I have basket symbols in here, and then I started really playing with stippling and just putting in as many symbols as I can, but not planning out what I'm doing. So it's coming from me and it's just going on the canvas. And what I like is that the pictures end up being something different. You know, they can be whatever you want them to be as the viewer. So this one I have up right now, I actually did specific, Loren was mentioning it. This one I did to honor us, or, you know, it's called Great Swamp, and it's recognizing the Narragansett people of a small plain of land. I put text in there. Tarzan Brown is in here. The color is representing fire. It's representing, you know, that the red is really strong. I wanted to show, I don't know, that just the powerfulness of you know, who we are as a people, and that we continue to be here today. And despite all that has happened to us, you know, we are here. So we have December 1675 commemorating, you know, what happened to our people on that date. There's Charlestown is in there. There's I can even see there's a little Wetu there's Wetus in there. If you look really closely, you'll see lots of different pieces. This is a special piece for me.
I'm wondering if you can build on, you've touched on it a little bit, on your creative process, like when you had a particular thing in mind, like this particular powerful piece on Great Swamp, to me so strong. First, what you go?
Literally, obviously, I went like
Artistic genius.
abstract. I didn't say that any other than wanted to put the in to how this was going to look. So it is one of a kind. Even if I tried to do another one like this right now, it will not come out like this, because I'll go about it. The process is still going to be the same. So the end result will be different. So I don't know if we want to go that far ahead.
Please. Please tell them about your work in design. I think that's really important for them to see how you what was on a painting into design work.
It's funny, you know, because once I got over the challenge of doing these designs on canvas, then I said, well, I want to make wearable art, like I want to be able to have it so that it's more than just something that hangs on a wall. And so, I mean, because yeah, some of these paintings, some of these designs, you could easily see. I kept saying, this needs to be a scarf, And so my dream had been to paint it on something, on a dress, And I told my little sister here, Ty Lynn, who's in the first picture, I had told her my dream that I wanted to color on a dress. And I went to Seeds, which technically was my first national market in 2017. And she came up to me and said, guess what? I have a surprise. And she said, and she told me what this project was going to be. And so Lauren Aragon, who's a designer for Akanav, him and his wife both do the work for Akanav. And she walked me over to his booth, and he had 3 dresses on mannequins, and she told me pick one. And so I picked the gown. And I was so excited and so happy. I was like overwhelmed, like with emotion, overcome with emotion that I was going to be able to do this. And so, yeah, that blank spot on the screen was supposed to have been the picture of me drawing on it. So I'm realizing it. And so she let me have first pick. So I took the gown and I went back to my booth, and the idea was that multiple artists that were participating in the market were going to get to paint his designed dresses. And the dresses were made out of canvas. So this is a canvas gown. And the end result I painted in that newspaper that you'll see there is how much I was able to complete, which is the bottom part of the gown. And then J. Nicole Hatfield did the top part. She did the portrait on the chest of that, or bodice of that gown. And then several other artists also worked on the other gown, or the other dress that's in the picture you can see. I think they had 2 artists per garment. Anyway, they did a fashion show at the end. It was really cool. What an amazing, just idea. And I was really, really blessed to be a part of it. So what happened after the market, we went through the whole fashion show, and well, they had me take the gown so that I could finish the bottom of the dress. And so it took me almost 2 years, but I did finish the bottom. And so it walked at Herd Market in 2019, which I was fortunate enough to be in that market. And Herd is technically considered the 2nd largest market in Indian country. And then it walked in the Abbey Market, which was in May of 2019, May of 2019. And so very exciting. Got a lot, I will say. I did have an offer to buy it. I didn't sell it because I felt that I think it's more important to share it and share this story right now. And eventually we'll sell it, I'm sure. But I think that the proceeds will go back to Seeds, because this dress is representative of that event. And yeah.
Dawn, can you describe some more of your design work, and as well as the markets that you've co-produced as well, the fashion shows?
I'm sorry, Ren, I didn't hear the beginning that you said.
Oh, I said, can you tell the audience more about your design work on clothing? I have to say, I'm very lucky. I have a pair of shoes, which I love. If you check out the Instagram pictures, you can see them on there. But just tell them more about your design work on clothing.
So this is some pictures of clothing. So the first picture is my daughter, actually. The debut piece that me even doing any kind of painting on clothing was a pair of jeans in the middle. And that was in 2016, I think. It was called IFAM East. Again, it was a collaboration between Northeast Indigenous Arts Alliance and IFAM, which had been organized, this is just probably going way too much into this, but it was a market, again, that predates Seeds, coordinated by Paula Maribel and Thailand Ogoya. So I reached out to these ladies and I asked, could we do something on the East Coast similar to what they were doing in the Southwest? And really wanting to bring visibility to the artists here in New England and in the Northeast, because, you know, people, when they're looking for art, they tend to go to the Southwest. Like, they forget that we have such a strong presence here in our area. So I guess one of my overarching goals has always been to raise visibility of us, you know, as the people here in the Northeast. And so to me, the best way to do that is to have things like these markets. So that's kind of what got me here. So the first event we did was in 2016 with IFAM. And then, so actually I'm confusing that, huh? The jeans weren't in IFAM. My daughter's jeans were in IFAM. But anyway, that's a mix up. But the pieces that you see here in these pictures are, I've done jeans, I've done sneakers, which is actually what I started with first. I figured if I can paint shoes, why can't I paint clothes? So I kind of went in that path. And then these pictures that you see in front of you circle around from a couple of years ago to just this past November. Sierra down here in the dress, that dress walked in Abbey last year. So that was May of last year. And then in the fall, again, it walked at a fashion show we had at the Towers in Narragansett. So my husband is up in the top there. He was wearing a pair of Timberlands, and in his jeans, I tagged, and his shirt is also drawn on. So, you know, he got out there and he did a little dance move and the audience roared. So, you know, it's funny, I had cousins out there modeling for me. I had co-workers from NEFA modeling for me. And when my crew, I'll say, went out on that stage, everyone was just roaring. The energy was just amazing. So it's funny that, you know, you can take your work from canvas and move it to your feet and then move it to your body. And I don't know, this is exactly what I hope for, is what I can say, is that energy that they showed on that stage that day was exactly the energy that I want the wearer to have when they're wearing my clothes. So it was perfect. It's funny because I told a couple of my models, I said, keep it kind of low key, don't. And they went out there and they did their thing. And I was like, oh, it is what it is. And it was good. So it wasn't a bad thing. It was good.
And we collaborate during the Rhythm and Roots Festival. And last year, there was one teenage girl that was so thrilled because she got a one-of-a-kind painted on jeans, and it was a really pretty light green color. And her family was just thrilled. I mean, the idea of having these designer jeans, one of a kind, to go back to school with was just such a hit.
Yeah, it's cool. I will say, you know, the thing is that, you know, when you're doing these kinds of things, you're kind of putting yourself out there. You know, whenever you're doing your artwork, you're bearing your soul a bit, you know. So it is very comforting to get that type of response, I will say. Yeah.
So Dawn, can you tell them a little bit more about your work behind the scenes doing production of some of these shows?
Oh yes. You know, I feel like it's just a natural intersection for me because and it probably shows even in my work production, because if I'm sometimes I'm more focused on doing things to help artists rather than doing things to help myself. So I worked for NEFA for seven plus years, and you know, that focus was always on supporting artists. So we had a grant program. We we also did a lot of technical assistance where we were helping artists kind of build on their resources for themselves, their tools that they need to do better, to do more. And when I left NEFA, I didn't want all of that to end. So that's why we built Northeast Indigenous Arts Alliance. So there'd still be a place for the artists to, really connect back to me, but also to have a space to grow. So what we've done is we've continued to do work to provide those tools, to provide the resources. And again, it goes back to artists needing an outlet. They need a space to sell their art. And so markets to me has always been the best way. And we have to have some, in a lot of cases, we have to actually create those markets. And so in 2017, I believe it was, the Abbey Museum contacted me, and they had, they saw what had happened with IFAM East. And so they asked me if I'd be interested in producing a market there. And, ironically, they were doing everything that I had, again, dreamed of. They had done all the groundwork, the research. As a museum, they had the funding. I don't know. They just did it in such a perfect way that there was nothing I could do but to say yes. And it was very exciting because they were looking to do what I was trying to do in Southern New England. They were trying to do it up in Maine. So in 2018, we launched, after a year of work, we launched the Abbey Museum Indian Market. And it was an amazing experience. It was the first time that I've ever done this at this level, independently, I'll say, because I did it with obviously the help of the Abbey, but I had to do a lot of it on my own. And I don't know. I think what I bring to that market production is the fact that I'm an artist myself, and that I go through all of it as I'm working through this market kind of arena. So I am always thinking of the artists instead of, being at the table and just looking at the dollar or looking at, I just bring a different side to it. And so I don't think it's just about having I think the key to having a successful market is having your artists be happy, and to make things as, I don't know what the word is, but especially for a trip to someplace like Bar Harbor that tends to be a bit isolated, I knew that that people had to trust that what we were doing, what we were putting on was going to be beneficial to them, because you don't want anyone to make a huge investment to travel to where they're going and then, they don't have any sales. I can tell you that for our event that first year, the artists were blown away. All we got was positive feedback. A lot of them, just their sales were through the roof. Few people sold out. I mean, it's like a lot of pressure, So I was that was one of those days that you felt truly blessed, We also had a fashion show that we did this event outside, and we did a fashion show right through the park. A little background story to this event, for the town, this was the first time they had done anything like this in their square. So the permitting there's a very short amount of time for the permitting, and your setup, your actual tents coming in and setup to the takedown is like 48 hours. Now the event is a weekend, right? It's a Saturday, Sunday. So in order to fulfill our, our contract with the town, we set up our tents that morning. They literally pulled in at like 6 o'clock in the morning and started setting up. So when the artists arrived Friday night, they were like, where's the market? Where's the tents? And a lot of people were, a little anxious. And I just had to say, just trust us. We've got this, and we did it. Amazingly enough, they had a serious crew. They came in and they got it up, and we met all of our requirements. So yes, don't want to do that though. That is not the way to go. But we did it, and what we showed the town, because the way we did that in that particular town is we actually went around to the businesses and and created little coupons for the artists so they could go in the town and get discounts. We made this a welcoming, bringing the artists in. The town helped us welcome everybody. So it was definitely a Bar Harbor event, So I think that's the way that it should always happen, but of course it doesn't.
Thank you, Dawn, for sharing that story. That was wonderful. It just shows the depth of your impact in the arts. I'm wondering if you can share what future projects are on your horizon, or any of the art that we didn't get to in your slides as well.
Yes. Okay. So I do have some interesting things happening. And I guess I'll use this to talk about pandemic, because I know that was one of our topics. And so, having to do all of this stuff in this virtual world now has made, and I will say, I've been going through a move for the last couple of months. So I've been keeping a very low profile, I'll say. I don't want to talk about that right now. So this was my pandemic project right here. We couldn't go out of the house. We couldn't do anything but, be in a confined space and be quarantined. So I went back to my ladies again and my dolls. And I probably made for Mother's Day about 50 dolls, I guess. And I took them outside and I photographed them and I offered them. Honoring women, honoring our mamas, honoring those matriarchs. And then the doll in the middle was my pandemic doll with her mask. And I don't know, I still have her. She's going to commemorate, I guess, this year and all of the challenges that we've had, but still just taking that moment to just do something to show this time. But so the work that I have been doing lately, which I'll go back here, has been more illustrative. And I made this slide because the girls that I showed you earlier were always the backs. Well, the girls that I'm doing now, it took me a while to figure out, because I kept drawing these girls and I was just never happy with how they looked, and I wasn't sharing them. And so I did the first one a couple of years ago, and I was just sitting drawing with my granddaughter, and we were just playing, and I said, I'm fighting myself in trying to figure out what my dolls, what my girls are going to look like on paper. And I had to stop fighting myself and just letting them be what they should be. They're abstract, they're fun, they're lively, they're bright, they're colorful. And again, that energy, right, is, I don't know, I just can't get away from it. So the designs are still there, my aesthetic's still there. And so the ones in the middle, again, were the three. I did this for a spoken word event that I was going to be in. I actually wrote a poem, and then I had artwork that went with it. That was very cool. I should have probably filmed that to share. And then the lady holding the baby, again, honoring moms. And then this one on the end is something I've just done recently. It's progression is there, but it's still very similar. And then in the fall, I did this 13 Moons, and that was on the cover of Motif magazine. 13 Moons is something I've been working on for a while. I go in and out. So the picture with the corn, that's a recent piece as well. that, just showing the corn. Corn's very important to me, as a food producer. My agriculture side comes through, and just my love of, our corn, and how when we were growing corn and we had that corn growing in the field, I would tell people to go over and to just listen to it, and the strength that came from that, just that wind that came off that corn. And when you looked into the corn and the feeling that you got, I mean, it was just that corn growing, that was our corn growing. It brought so much, I don't know, just, there was so much love there, so much energy there too. And so this picture was a way to show that those stalks of corn in that field, we say that they're like the sisters holding each other up. The stalks hold each other up and support each other. And so that's what I was trying to show in this painting.
These are such stunning pieces. Just stunning.
Thank you. And then I just came back to another shot that just clearly shows, the different work that I'm doing. And
this picture is a perfect picture to ask this question, Dawn. Can you tell the audience, besides the Tamaqua store and online store, where can they find your work?
I do have a website. It's on ArtSpan, so it's dmspears.artspan.com. And I do have a Pinterest page, which, not a Pinterest page, excuse me, an Etsy page, which is again DM Spears, which I see I did not put the link in, but you can always email me and I can direct you. And then the best thing, honestly, for especially the shoes, is to do custom work. So I always tell people to go grab a pair of shoes. They should, the best ones are like white canvas, and put them on, make sure they're comfortable, because I don't want anyone to make that investment into wearable art and then not be able to wear the art. So, try them on, make sure they're comfortable, and then just send them to me. And I try to get them done in 2 weeks. That is, I try to tell myself I'm going to get it done in 2 weeks and then get it back to you.
Excellent. I'm wondering if now, Dawn, if you can stop sharing your screen for a moment, so that maybe people can raise their hand, their virtual hand, and ask a question directly. That was so phenomenal. Thank you. Everyone can give her certainly a round of applause for that. That was fantastic.
Yay!
So I'm wondering if anyone has a question for Dawn. You can just unmute yourself if you'd like. Looks like Alana might be unmuting.
Hey, how's everyone doing? Thank you so much for having this today. This is so neat. And I'm in my garden, so I just wanted to share that with you, Dawn. I really connected with feeling the energy of your work, and it was so cool to hear about the energy of other people wearing your art. And I was kind of curious to hear if you want to share about maybe how you feel when you wear your own art. I know that you said that, art is like bearing your soul a bit. It's like sharing a part of you. And I don't know if you want to share about that at all. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a good question. I have not been very successful at wearing my own art. I have painted my own sneakers, and I did wear them. I wore them out, as a result. But I have yet to really complete a piece for me to wear. When I was doing the Herd show, I actually painted a whole piece of fabric, and then I was trying to make it into a vest, and that I didn't successfully complete that. So I'm still working on that piece. but I can't wait because yes, I want to be one of those. I want to get that energy too. Sometimes you really need it, huh?
Is there
Thank
another
you.
question? While we're waiting for someone to unmute.
I miss you, Dawn.
Oh,
I miss you too.
How are you? I wanted to ask you, will the herd market happen again?
I'm sure it will. What was nice,
Post-pandemic?
one thing I didn't add, when I was working on the Abbey market, I had an opportunity to work with all the organizers. We had a cohort set up, and we got to work with all of the organizers of markets across the country.
Wow.
So I became buddies, I'll say, with, you know, the Autry, and I forgot to mention, I did the Autry as well. What's really cool is when you get into one market, you know, that's where we see everybody, you know. So I was invited when I was at Seeds in 2017, some of the ladies from the Autry invited me and to come and to be there. And that was like really cool. You know, it was almost like it validated what I was doing, because I'm not a typical, like, I don't fit in really the categories, you know, that we have in this market environment. So that it was amazing. And so the Autry is in LA. So I got to go to LA in November of 2017 and sell and I did really well. So I was very happy. And so that kind of set it in motion so that, you know, now you can keep going to markets because you're in that market arena. You know what I mean? So I think I forgot what your question was.
Well, just what was the herd market going to happen again?
So
Yeah.
that was what, right. So as a result, you know, we work collectively, and you saw, I don't know if everybody saw that SWIA, which is the largest market, that happened virtually. They did a whole month-long market.
Wow.
And so that's how I got my website up, because being part of that market, everyone that signed up this year were part of a virtual market. I know that Cherokee, which is another large one, we're planning on doing a virtual one. So I have said yes, that I was interested in that. The Autry I haven't heard from, but you know, right after the Autry comes herd. The herd is in March. So I have not heard, but no joke, have not heard, but I think they'll do the same. If we can't meet in person, I'm sure they're going to look at a virtual, you know, opportunity as well. I think as a market organizer, you just want to still fulfill your role, you know, in some way, and provide that connection for the buyers to connect with the artists.
Yeah. So I have one more question, if I'm not hogging the time.
oh, please.
So you said, because you didn't fit in the categories, and so it took me a minute to figure out that you were saying, so you're saying your work doesn't fit in the more traditional categories? Yeah.
So when you get into these larger markets, the categories are very, very, I'll say rigid. So if you take something like pottery, it's divided down into so many different categories and classifications. And I mean, and it has to be, you're not buying anything that's, you know, produced. You have to be handcrafting it yourself from start to finish. And the work that I'm doing, I mean, I'm painting on pockets, you know, I'm repurposing a lot of ways. So I'm kind of cutting edge, like off in my own category. So I usually fill out diverse arts, and I hate to do apparel or clothing or anything like that, because first of all, I'm not sewing my own, like I don't sew. I just don't sew. So I'm like on the edge of it.
Yeah.
I'm up against somebody that's doing a fully beaded outfit, or, you know, I'm just never going to measure up because I'm doing something totally different. So I
wonder if you're path breaking here. I just wonder if you're not sort of opening opportunities for others whose work also doesn't fit by, you know,
could be
being in the market.
Yeah.
So
Well, they keep letting me in. They keep accepting me. So I guess that's, I was waitlisted for HERD this past year, which is most likely my fault because I didn't get my application in early enough. But, you know, the first year that I applied, I got in. So I think, yeah, it's kind of cool, right?
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
like representing. I will also say that for SWIA this year, in this virtual arena, they didn't have Narragansett on their drop down. I had to go back to them and say, well, I can't register, like I can't do my website, which is a requirement because you don't have Narragansett on your list.
Wow.
And so I thought that was kind of,
Yeah.
all right, that was groundbreaking because I just added us, like, why wasn't I on that? Like, why wasn't Narragansett on that list? Obviously, that would mean I would be the first Narragansett if they didn't have that tribe represented in there. You know, they have a lot of tribes on that list.
So when you think about that in 2020, Dawn is a radical woman. There's an exhibit by the Women's Fund of Rhode Island that's called Radical Women, talking about the 19th Amendment. But even today, we have warrior women, which is our exhibit, and radical women that are groundbreaking. So it's wonderful to hear Dawn's story and how she's breaking ground in new places and in new ways to represent Indigenous art, which I think is so critical to, just as she was speaking about her professor trying to put her in a box of certain kinds of art as representative of indigeneity, she's pushed against that her whole career to ensure that people see the art that's coming out of her, that's her inspiration, her story, her telling her culture and community and representing it in her way, which I'm so excited and thankful to have had Dawn lead off our first Quarantine Creatives series today. And I'm wondering if she has any last thing she'd like to add before we do our closing.
You know, I want to just, I feel like before we close, I do just need to make sure that I thank Tamaquag, because a lot of the opportunities that I have had has been a direct result of, you know, the support of the museum. I mean, obviously, I'm going to always support Tamaquag because, you know, my mom worked here and it's just been part of my, I feel like part of my entire life. So it's, you know, I just say we just got to continue working together because I think it's good for all of us.
Thank you. That is so true. I mean, we have such a small network. Indigenous people are such a small amount of the population of this country or even this continent today that we need to support and uplift each other. And through the Indigenous Empowerment Network, we really want to continue to uplift and empower Indigenous artists and Indigenous voice and the community as a whole. I want to thank Dawn again for sharing with us today, and thank you all for joining us for this presentation. I just have a few announcements I'd love to share with you before you go. Our next session of Quarantine Creatives is scheduled for September 18th with Deborah Spears Moorhead at noon. This series will continue throughout the fall with amazing Indigenous artists. We hope you will return for these free programs. You can find the link to register on our website under events. In the next couple of weeks, we'll be adding many more because we've confirmed all the way through December so far. The Tamaquag Museum is now open for small private tours, but it's by appointment only. So if you'd like to come inside and see the museum and our new Warrior Women exhibit and the Traveling Radical Women exhibit for the month of September will still be here at Tamaquag Museum, you can give us a call or check out our website for details. We're trying to do groups between 5 and 15 to make it cost effective and safe for everyone. The Tamaquag Museum, we would like to thank again our funders, the United Way, the Rhode Island State Council on the Arts, and the Rhode Island Council for the Humanities, and you, because our individual donors have helped us through this most difficult COVID-19 year and helped us to manage to adapt and adopt and anchor ourselves during this very crazy COVID-19 timeframe and keep us healthy as an organization and keep our staff and community healthy as well. So please consider making a tax-deductible donation to Tamaquag Museum via our website. You can also support the museum by shopping our new online store. Thanks to one of our Indigenous Empowerment Network interns that we brought back on this summer, we have flipped our in-museum store to an online store where you can see Dawn is a featured guest artist. As each artist is uploaded, as they have 5 or more items on the online store, they become a featured artist, and she is our first featured artist and our first feature in our quarantine creative series. You can find that on our website, tamaquagmuseum.org. I want to thank you again so much for joining us today, and we hope we will see you again in a few weeks for session 2.
One more thing, Ren.
Yes, please.
I was looking at Holly there, and I said I did a bad thing. I didn't plug that we're doing a mural in Roger Williams Park on October 3rd. I'm one of the artists that's going to be doing that. So that is an upcoming thing.
Oh, please, yes. And we love all these collaborations that transpire. And we hope that all of the audience that's here will collaborate with us in different kinds of ways and continue to join us on these COVID creative series. And there's going to be, a lot of them are at noon, but there are a few that are scheduled at different times of the day. So please share with your family and friends the opportunities that come up. Winnikisak, have a great afternoon.
Bye, everyone.
Oh, for those that are still on, we'll post these on YouTube as soon as we can so that the other people that couldn't join today can join us then. Thank you. Thank you, Dawn. It was so wonderful.
Thank you. Love you.
Love you.